I am a man of many passions. One of them is Japanese anime, unknowingly consuming the medium at a young age thanks to reruns of Voltron, Transformers G1, and Speed Racer in the 90s, which leads me into one of my other great loves, cars. When I'm not making videos here on YouTube, I'm turning wrenches to make a living. My love for the automobile is what got me into the business, and unlike a lot of mechanics whose passion for cars goes away the more they work on them, mine is stronger than ever right now. I recently stumbled upon this video by Josh White, talking about Bulma's car from the original Dragon Ball series, which is based off of the real-life Renault 5 Turbo. It reminded me of other times I've seen real cars in anime. Drawing inspiration from Josh, I'd like to look at some of these other cars that went from being works of art on the street to being immortalized in Japanese animation. Starting here with episode 1 of AutoMation. And yes, I know automation is a real word. The name of the show is AutoMation, a portmanteau of automobile and animation. Now that we got that out of the way, let's move on. Originally airing on TV Tokyo in 1995 and created by Hideaki Anno, whose other notable projects include Nadia, The Secret of Blue Water, Shin Godzilla, Gunbuster, and Mobile Suit Gundam G-Quux, Neon Genesis Evangelion is considered either one of the greatest anime of all time or the most overrated. There is no in between on this subject. You either see it as a multi-layered story with a heavy theme of psychoanalysis, friendship, individuality, sexuality, gender roles, and philosophy, all wrapped around giant mecha action using heavy Christian iconography and themes to express a man's inner turmoil. Or mindless drivel written by a dude that was sad and wanted to make shit that looked cool. I'm the former. It's one of my all-time favorites, and that hasn't changed with age. Watching the show as a teenager, I was able to identify with the teenage protagonists, the pilots of the eponymous giant monster-fighting Evangelion units. But watching it when I was older, in my 30s, I could more closely relate to the adult characters and understand their motives and problems. I love that about the show. It can grow with you if you catch it at the right time in your life. In the first episode, protagonist Shinji Ikari is waiting to be picked up by the series' best girl, Misato Katsuragi. I'm not taking any phone calls. Don't at me, don't email me, and don't slip into my DMs on this subject. The giant monster attacks the futuristic city of Tokyo 3, and luckily Misato gets to Shinji in time, showing some slick driving skills behind the wheel of a blue sports car. As a kid I thought, man, what a cool looking car. And little did I know that this vehicle wasn't a fictional future car, but is instead based on a real-life European car born and bred from the World Rally Championship. The Alpine A310 was built by French automobile company Alpine SAS, with the first example rolling off the production line in 1971. Founded by Renault dealership owner Jean Radel in 1955, Alpine started life as an unnamed customizer of Renault brand cars, modifying them for use in motor racing, basically becoming a tuning house for Renault, like how AMG and Ferrari got their starts, who were aftermarket customizers and racers of Mercedes-Benz and Alfa Romeo cars respectively. Radel would eventually set up Alpine proper and started building his own cars from the ground up instead of customizing already existing Renaults, albeit using Renault components and engines. The A310 was a sports car featuring a rear-mounted engine with rear-wheel drive. It was originally powered by an aging 1.6-liter Renault A2L inline 4-cylinder engine, producing 125 horsepower, mated to a 5-speed manual gearbox. But the car was seen as an underperformer both on the sales floor and in the wilderness. The A310 had the unenviable task of trying to live up to its predecessor, the A110, one of the most legendary rally cars ever built. Having swept the podium of the prestigious Monte Carlo Rally in 1973, along with winning the first ever World Rally Championship that same year. The A110 would appear in anime as well, Lupin III. Fujiko drives an A110 in the first episode of the series, and the car pops up several times throughout franchise history. There's actually a lot of classic cars in that show, most notably the Mercedes-Benz SSK and Fiat 500. Shout out to Lupin superfan The Biggie for helping me out here. Misato driving the A310 is supposedly a reference to Fujiko and Lupin. At least that's what I keep seeing all over the internet, but I can't find a definitive source. The A310 will be designated as Alpine's weapon of choice for the 1974 WRC season, and the team absolutely cratered as the A310 could only muster a single podium finish, coming in the final event of the season and dropping the champion manufacturer from the previous season down to 5th place in the final point standings. The A310 would be dropped for the 1975 season as Alpine would bring the A110 back for the series. The ultimate indictment for any race car is to be replaced with its own predecessor. The beleaguered sports car would get a kick in the ass in 1976 after a facelift from renowned car designer Robert Oprin, giving the car a more aggressive look. The straightforward power plant would be replaced with a brand new 2.6-liter V6 engine, developed through the technical alliance of Peugeot, Renault, and Volvo. The new engine would push the A310's power up to 148 horses, with the additional weight of the bigger engine helping plant the rear wheels firmly to the tarmac, in conjunction with the new rear spoiler Oberyn had added to the car's design. The additional weight on the rear axle not only gave the car better rear grip, but would improve its handling profile overall. For a few minutes, this made the A310 seem like a legit competitor with the Porsche 911, which featured the same RR layout with both cars having similar weight distribution and handling. However, Alpine just kinda let the car flounder, never allowing it to pose any real threat to the pride of Stuttgart. This revision would finally let the car see some success in motorsports though, winning the French Rally Championship in 1977 with Guy Fréquelin behind the wheel. The A310 would have one last gasp in its final two production years of 1983 and 1984, receiving the optional Pack GT trim level based off the car's FIA Group 4 racing counterpart, which was seeing success in various French motorsports. This trim would give the car even more aggressive styling by giving it a bigger rear and chin spoiler, along with adding fender flares and side skirts, almost like a wide body. The new look was accompanied by an upgraded engine, with its V6 power plant being increased to 2.9 liters, pushing it to 190 horsepower, letting the car at least go out with a bit of a bang. When it comes to Misato's car in the show, people seem to agree that it's mostly based on the 1600 VE version of the A310, which was a slight revision that came out between the original car and its 1976 facelift. This version of the car has the same headlamp assembly as seen in the show. However, that's about where the similarities end between the fictional car and the real one. The car in the show obviously has a spoiler that was added in the 1976 revision, but the rear end is a lot slimmer and sportier looking, along with having a more sloped rear cabin compared to the 1600 VE. It seems to me that the car is a combination of both the 1600 VE and the Pack GT version seen in the car's final days. The most notable difference isn't visual though, but mechanical. The car's transmission is an automatic in the show with an optional sequential mode, whereas the real A310 was a 5-speed manual, with Misato seeming to favor the sequential shifter over using the automatic. For those who may not know, a sequential shift is a type of transmission where the input device shifts at either one gear higher or one gear lower in sequence, hence the name. Modern Formula 1, Grand Touring, and prototype cars use this type of transmission with paddle shifters on the steering wheel, while the current NASCAR Cup Series car uses a sequential lever just like Misato's. These are also seen in older style Grand Touring and rally cars. The difference between Misato's car and the real one is the 5-speed manual, and the real A310 was an H-pattern shifter, which is quickly becoming a relic of the past unfortunately. Also, Misato's car is a right-hand drive, when the real A310 only came in left-hand drive. It also has a built-in GPS, which of course was not a thing back in the 70s. After picking Shinji up, the car gets wasted by the shockwave of an explosion, sending it rolling over several yards. After slapping it back together with tape and stolen batteries, Misato has an internal monologue saying that she had just gotten the car fixed, and still has 33 more payments to go on it. The rigged up batteries seem to suggest that the car is electric, and I've seen plenty of people online say that it is. But you can definitely hear the sound of an internal combustion engine in the exterior shots of the car.
Yes, don't worry, his safety is my top priority.
Whenever we're inside the car with the characters, it's almost dead silent, as if the car is electric. I would say that this is a design choice so that we can listen to the characters speak without distraction, but there are plenty of other instances in the show where lots of background noise is present during conversations.
Gates are now closing. Please stand clear. This is a B-22 Special Express.
It's a secret organization controlled by the UN.
This train will bypass
And that's
all
where
other
my father
stations.
works?
Please stand
Well,
down.
yeah, you do know what he does, don't you?
Maybe it's a hybrid, or it's just an oversight. There exists an official plastic model kit of the car, and it blatantly says on the box that the car is a V6, so it definitely has an internal combustion engine. It also says this particular A310 is a, quote, 2015 version, which might explain the differences between it and the real-life Alpine. But that raises further questions. Is the car a 2015 Alpine A310 or a full-blown resto mod of the original? A mystery wrapped in an enigma. Misato herself seems to be a petrol head. In episode 2, we see several car magazines in her apartment, insinuating that she keeps up to date with the auto industry, along with having a poster of a car in her room as seen in episode 12. It seems to be some kind of old convertible, but in episode 23 the poster has changed to an Alpine A110, the A310's predecessor. I guess she liked that poster better and decided to change it. I also find it hilarious that the poster isn't a drawing, it's a real ass picture of a car just pasted in there. She also wears driving gloves when she's behind the wheel, a very old school thing that only a real driving enthusiast would do. Evangelion character designer Yoshiyuki Sadamoto is a fan of cars and motorsports. I wanted to impart that trait onto a character in the show. Misato's dress from the first episode is supposedly designed after motorcycle riding gear, but I myself don't really see it. She also drives like an absolute lunatic. Misato definitely has some skills behind the wheel, as seen in episode 1 while transporting Shinji to Nerve HQ, along with straight up drifting a car perfectly into a parking space in episode 7. But at the same time, we see her double park the long way in episode 2. In the drift parking scene, she's driving what appears to be a Ferrari 328 GTS. We can assume that her Alpine is back in the shop and being repaired from the damage sustained in episode 1. But holy hell, where did she find that rental? This is a world where half the human population died in like 5 minutes in the year 2000, but you're telling me classic European sports cars survived the apocalypse? After the first few episodes, the car makes infrequent appearances throughout the rest of the series. Funny enough though, Misato seems to be the only person in the show that actually owns a car. Every other character is always taking public transportation, or is bumming a ride off Misato, such as her friend Ritsuko. The car makes its final appearance in episode 24. Misato uses the car and the nerve parking elevator to have a secret meeting with side character Hyuga, and the car shows up for the final time on a bridge where she and Hyuga are meeting once again. The car is also seen in the movie End of Evangelion where it's ultimately destroyed while Misato is trying to save Shinji. I do think the A310 and its later revisions, especially the Pack GT version, is a really cool looking car, and I probably never would have known about it without it being featured in Evangelion. Alpine itself is still around. Today it's a subsidiary of Renault, who purchased the company in 1973. The brand was dormant from 1995 until 2017, when Renault relaunched Alpine with a modern version of the classic A110. Funny enough, the modern A110 is one of the primary cars seen in the anime and manga series MF Ghost, the sequel to the insanely well-known Initial D franchise. Alpine is mostly known today for its involvement in motorsports. Renault's Formula 1 team competes under the Alpine banner, while the partially Renault-owned Signatech operates the Alpine Endurance team in the World Endurance Championship. And with that, the first and, who knows, maybe last episode of AutoMation comes to a close. Would you be interested in seeing more of the show? What are some of your favorite non-fictional cars that have popped up in fictional universes? Let me know in the comments section below. As always, thank you for watching. I'm RedColin13, and I'll see you next time.
The fans really seem to enjoy that. You made it look easy.